Hey guys, Iissham here. Today we're going to be going over what covenant I think you should be using, the specific soulbinds you need, the legendary you should craft, and the stats that are optimal for Resto Shaman in order to start the new PvP season off strong. If you guys are new to my channel, I am a multi-rank 1, 3.3k plus experienced Resto Shaman aiming to provide high-level gameplay, guides, and more educational videos on my YouTube channel. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Iissham And before we get started with the video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe as it all helps out in regards to the YouTube algorithm. So let's jump into the video. Alright, so the covenant that is currently the best for Resto Shaman in PvP is the Maldraxxus covenant. The abilities from the Soulbinds as well as the covenant abilities themselves are in general stronger and more useful than all of the other covenants that may provide a specific niche pick or are good in only a few situations. Primordial Wave is a short cooldown, applies Riptide to the target, and has the ability to do insane healing with Healing Wave. So why is Primordial Wave so good? Well, with Earthshield being baseline and no longer a talent choice, it allows us to pick Echo the Elements permanently now. There is no reason to ever switch out of this, so now we have 2 Riptides, which means it isn't going to be a problem to have Riptides up on everyone. Now, what Primordial Wave does is that once you use it, it applies Riptide to the target you use the ability on, as well as it duplicates 60% of your initial Healing Wave's healing to everyone that has the Riptide hot on them. So yes, this means you could Primordial Wave one target and Healing Wave that target, and it heals them twice with the Primordial Wave buff. Or you can have Riptide up on everyone in a 3s game against a Rot comp, cast Healing Wave, and do 4 Healing Waves for the cast of 1 Healing Wave. This is exceptionally good with the Soulbind we will talk about a little bit later. And this also synergizes really nicely with Unleash Life or Undulation. So this gives the opportunity for some insane healing on a 45-second cooldown. And Fleshcraft is good. It gets a lot better later on, but it is a 20% shield on a 2-minute cooldown. But it becomes insanely skill capped, in my opinion, later on in the expansion when you're able to use it to avoid CC. Alright, so next we are going to be talking about Soulbinds and what I think you should start off with. Now, when it comes to these 3 individuals, the first one that you actually unlock is going to overall be the better choice throughout the PvP season, so you're just going to want to stay with this guy and you're going to be fine. So let's just talk about the abilities of this guy first that make this tree so valuable. So the first one doesn't really matter, using Fleshcraft when nearby corpses consumes their essence completely, granting a benefit based on the creature's type. Again, doesn't really matter. Might have some implications in Mythics, for example, but not so much PvP. So this one is going to be extremely powerful actually. So when reduced below 50% health, Ooze courses over you, granting you a shield for 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds, may only occur once per 30 seconds. So especially, I kind of foresee that this season is going to be extremely burst oriented, probably going to be a bunch of melee cleaves and things like that. And with this meta, usually what it means is that teams are going to be once again training Resto Shamans quite a bit, and now that we don't have 50 plus, 60 plus % versatility in arena, it is actually going to be more difficult to survive this expansion. Now, with that being said, it's important that you pick a covenant that is going to provide you with defensives that is going to aid in your survivability, and this is why I really like this character, because it seems like 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds isn't that good, and it's not. It just provides you a little buffer, but the thing you have to note is that this is a 30-second cooldown, so it's an extremely short cooldown, which is really amazing for Resto Shaman. And this provides you with a little buffer And it pairs nicely with Nature's Guardian, because when your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. So those two items together, if you're finding yourself maybe going up against a sub rogue or a setup-based comp that can basically just 100 OU in a stun, those two things are going to make it extremely difficult to actually 100 OU. So that's why I think it is so beneficial moving forward that you select this tree and then you actually use that. It's a little thing, it's not super overpowered, it's just good, and it is going to help you survive in PvP. The next ability that I suggest you pick is, these two don't really matter, but I would go with this one. And then the last ability, Ultimate Form. While channeling Fleshcraft, you are immune to crowd control and you regenerate 2% HP every 1 second. And if you finish the full channel, you gain 4 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% HP every 1 second. Now, I'm not sure if these two stack or if the bottom paragraph is just kind of summarizing the first bit. So what it seems to me is that while you're channeling Fleshcraft, so that's like a 4-second cast, that's going to prevent 4 seconds of CC landing on you as well with the additional heal. And then if you successfully complete that channel, then you gain an additional 4 seconds of immunity. I'm not actually sure if that's how it works, but if it is and you're able to gain 8 seconds of crowd control immunity, like that's just a no-brainer. Even 4 seconds is going to be insane. So a couple of scenarios where this is going to be really beneficial. Let's say you use Tremor Totem, try to, pre-Tremor Warrior Fear, for example. He kills that totem, he thinks he can fear you for free, then wabam, as soon as he kills your Tremor Totem, you pop Fleshcraft, and that's going to make you immune to that CC. So I think there's going to be many skill cap ways in which you can actually use this ability later on in the season once you actually unlock Renown level 30. So I think that's going to be extremely powerful. Now let's talk about the actual conduits that you should invest in and try your best to farm them. The first one, this is going to be the most essential conduit for you. It's a potency one, Swirling Currents. Using Healing Stream Totem increases the healing of your next 3 healing surges, healing waves, or Riptide spells by 24%. And especially now, since we always use Echo of the Elements, that is a huge overall healing output increase. So that's why you're going to want to try to get this one as soon as possible. Even if you don't have a 184 one, I was super fortunate to get this one off a Mythic. Go for the 158 ones. Go for the 171, because anything is going to be better than not having that. So that is good. This is the first conduit that I recommend you actually use. Now, the next one, when you get over into the Endurance Conduit, the Endurance Conduits are kind of interesting. I would recommend going Vital Accretion. Your Earth Elemental increases your maximum health by 21%, especially because this first season is most likely how it's headed, going to be extremely bursty. So I predict that very few games are going to actually go into dampening unless you're playing like a super peel heavy comp, or maybe like Rogue Mage Mirrors will do some crazy stuff. This just gets so much more value because you go into stun, you get out of the stun, and you can't cast because the melee DPS or whoever switched to you doesn't, or they have their kicks, right? So you're unable to cast and Riptide's not going to do it. Using this is essentially using a Battle Master. It's a free Battle Master that you can have. Now, this is only the 158 one, but I was looking the Mythic one, and I think the ones from the raid increase your maximum health by close to 30%. I think the one that I looked at increased your health by 29%, which is absolutely insane. Now, Urshiel or Earth Ellie, it's like a 5-minute cooldown maybe? I'm not exactly sure. I guess I can check really quick. 5-minute cooldown, so it's not that bad. It's kind of that, oh shit, you don't have Link, they swap to you, you need something to pick up your health instantly. Boom, there it is. And that's what you should pick for your first Endurance Conduit. If you don't have that, you can go this one, but we'll talk about this one in a second. So you go down this side, you go there, you select this one or that one, then you go here. potency conduit. Now, there's only one other potency conduit that I would recommend you use. I don't actually know what the higher item level version of this one is. If it has like a 30% chance to not incur its cooldown, because if that were the case, then you can maybe make an argument on why this could be really good. But let's go over to this one dungeon, Mist, and the next one you're going to want to try to farm is going to be Embrace of Earth. Earth Shield increases your healing done to the target by an additional 6.5%. Now, it's great that Earth Shield is baseline and it's no longer a talent choice. That was really annoying. It made the Resto Shaman playstyle feel really clunky, and I did not like that. But going back to when we had Earth Shield in the past, it always increased the healing done to that target with Earth Shield by 10%. I think it was more than 10% in Legion with the artifact legendaries. So yeah, this overall is just going to be great. Like, who doesn't want an overall 6.5% increase to your healing? And this is going to pair really nicely with a bunch of other things. For example, you use Primordial Wave, you use Unleash on that target, you cast Healing Wave on that target. All those modifiers, and they amplify your heals. So that's going to, accrue a lot of benefits in your arena games. And that's just one little small thing that, again, synergizes so well with a bunch of the different utility and abilities that Resto Shaman has. So I would recommend using this for your next potency. Now, this one is a little more interesting. You can go with another endurance conduit, or you can go with a finesse conduit. Now, this one isn't as obvious. Both are really good in my opinion. However, if you feel like you are getting trained a lot, you're having a hard time living, for your very last endurance conduit, actually going with Refreshing Waters is going to be insanely valuable to you. So this is a green 141 or 145 one. It increases your healing surge by 15%. It's 15% more effective on yourself. However, I was looking at some of the other mythic ones. This goes up to like 30%, 25%, I believe, which is insane. And with the additional modifier to this, so your healing surge gets increased by 24%. This stacks with Unleash, or maybe you're using Undulation. You can essentially top yourself in one healing surge, especially if you go over to Swelling Waves. When you cast Healing Surge on yourself, you're healed for 50% of the amount 3 seconds later. So that's just going to get more value, and it's going to help you live against teams that are putting a lot of pressure on you. So that's one thing to consider. Number 2, most of the finesse conduits are pretty terrible, except Crippling Hex. Enemies affected by your Hex deal 9% reduced damage for 8 seconds after a Hex is removed. Now, this pairs, I don't know if the mythic ones, the mythic rating ones, or whatever the next item level to this is going to be, how effective it's going to be. This, for example, paired with Voodoo Mastery. So Voodoo Mastery reduces the cooldown of your Hex spell by 20 seconds, which means in PvP, Shamans have a spammable Hex. This is the first time ever that we've ever had a spammable CC, which is so nice. It increases the skill cap on Resto Shaman by a super large amount. If you watched my 42-0 video, you saw how I was messing around with unlimited Hex essentially, and it's so good. It's so valuable in so many different matchups, and I'm going to explain why. A common matchup that you might queue into on the ladder, I'm thinking, is going to be Windwalker DK, and that's usually paired with a Mistweaver or a Holy Pally. Now, when teams don't have a Dispel for your Hex, you have an 8-second Cyclone as a Resto Shaman, which is insane. Not only that, if you focus only one DPS and you can just off Hex the other DPS, when they leave that Hex, if it breaks to damage, whatever, they do 10% reduced damage. And again, in a burst meta, every percentage that the enemy team is, or that your team is able to deflect, is going to be insane. So that's going to get a tremendous amount of value, and you can essentially keep it up on the enemy team the whole entire game. So that's going to be really nice as well. So if you feel like you're having a tough time surviving, refreshing waters is always going to be good. You're always going to get value out of it. However, if you want to play a little more skill capped, if you're actually able to get the hexes out, then I would suggest crippling hex, because the value that you can potentially get into specific matchups that might just train you, it's going to be hard to quantify. Like, it's so valuable in my opinion. So that's why when I get down here, I'm probably going to go crippling hex, at least to try it out and see how it feels. Next, there's 3 legendaries that I'm going to be talking about that you should potentially craft. 2 of them are going to be for sure that you can craft 1 or 2 and they're going to be good. The third one that I'll talk about is going to be an honorable mention. Let's start off with Earthen Harmony. Pretty simple. Urshield's healing is increased by 150% if your Urshield target is below 75% health. And Healing Wave adds a stack of Urshield to your target up to 9 maximum stacks. Really good, super strong healing buff to your Urshield. It's going to make your Urshield consistently do your number 3 or number 4 overall healing. It's a really big overall healing output increase, especially if the enemy team doesn't have a purge. It's also really nice if you queue into a melee cleave, they don't have a purge. You're able to just put it up on one target, just spam Healing Wave, keep it from dropping, and that way it's going to save you a lot of mana, so you don't have to continuously refresh it. The downside with this one, however, and I'm not sure what the meta is going to look like, if certain classes are going to be super prevalent in the arena season. However, if mages, shadow priests, disc priests, things like that love to purge, this is going to lose a lot of value. And why is that? Because you fight against a shadow priest, they do a lot of rot pressure. You're going to probably be swapping around your Urshield quite a bit. Not only that, you kick a priest on shadow, what do they do if they want to be effective and they don't want to waste any globals? They're just going to spam purge. And Resto Shaman is not known for having any buff protection. So you have your Riptide on the target, you have your Urshield. They can purge it off in 2 goes. So your Urshield is going to lose a lot of value, unfortunately, I think, if you queue into the wrong comp. So that's the only reason why I'm worried about that. But overall, it's still quite strong. The next one that I'm going to suggest, the number 2 legendary, is going to be this one. Healing Wave and Healing Surge increase the healing done by your next chain heal by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. So obviously, you Healing Wave or Healing Surge 5 times, your next chain heal is going to do 50% more healing. Now, that is quite a bit, honestly. And that is going to stack, again, with the modifiers and amplifiers that Shaman has. That's going to stack with your Unleash. And this actually pairs super nicely with Tidebringer. So every 8 seconds, the cast time of your next chain heal is reduced by 50%, and jump distance is increased by 100%. So that pairs super nicely with that. Again, if you use the 1 potency conduit, that increases the healing you do to the target with Urshield. That's going to get increased by that as well. And if the target is low, then your Shaman Mastery comes into play. So this gives the potential for some absolutely insane chain heals that are just going to bounce around and basically top you in 1 heal. I believe that this legendary is going to be much more consistent overall than Earthen Harmony. My only worry about this is that some newer shamans are going to rely on this a little too much. And then it's like how it was when it was introduced earlier in Legion, that you're just going to spam chain heal and you're going to yourself and then you're going to lose because you have no mana. So if you do use this one, you have to be careful. And I don't know if the buff that this provides you, if it's able to be purged. If it's not, it gains a huge amount of value. It may even be better than the Urshield one because, again, if you queue into Shadow Priests, if Shadow Priests are super common, Disc Priests, you know, there's probably going to be lots of Hunter Cleaves that are going to be prevalent. Hunter has Purge as well. You're going to be queuing into Rogue Mage Priest, maybe. That's probably going to be super popular. So with all those teams with Purge, this just loses lots of value. So that's why, depending on the meta, I think I'm going to craft this one first, but I'll probably end up switching over to this one. Now, the third legendary I'm going to talk about, the honorable mention, is going to be this one. Casting Riptide has a 7% chance to activate Ascendance for 6 seconds. The reason why this is so good is because it's that I'm not going to say consistent, but it's a semi-reliable way to just increase your overall healing output. So if we're queuing into lots of rotty things, I don't know how prevalent Affliction Warlocks are going to be, or maybe melee cleaves that just hit whatever they can, and that's going to do a lot of spread pressure. That this might be good, and now that we have Echo of the Elements baseline, essentially, because the other talent choices are garbage, and we have 2 Riptides, 7% is not super low. Like, this could proc a few times in an arena game, I would think. And Ascendance is obviously insane because when you use it, it duplicates all your healing done. So you get a quick little burst of healing, which could be enough to save your teammates' cooldowns for those 6 seconds, and then you're able to hold on for one of their cooldowns until later on in the game, and that's actually going to net you a win. So this could be really good. The one thing that I don't like about it, it's kind of inconsistent, right? Like, theoretically, you could get this off of like your next 5 Riptides in a row, and that would be insane. And some games you literally might not get it. However, I think that's going to be hard because it is 7%. So yeah, that's why I kind of like it. And I believe when this procs, it actually does the initial Ascendance AoE heal to everyone. I can't remember if it does or not. I was messing around with it on the beta and I cannot remember if it does. But if it does, again, that's going to give this even more value. So I don't think that this one initially is as good as these two. That's why it's an honorable mention. So I'd recommend even you craft this one, you craft that one, or you go with that one in terms of legendaries. Okay, so this last topic is just going to be going over the Resto Shaman stat priority. I'm just going to do this really quickly. Ideally, you want to get pieces, every single piece you want should have versatility on it. Versatility is just your best stat. It increases your healing done, increases your damage done. Resto Shaman Lava Burst, for example, scaled super nicely with the level squish, so our Lava Burst does quite a bit of damage. And with things being so bursty, you're probably going to get swapped to a lot. Having all that versatility to reduce some damage is going to be nice. And when you have the PvP 2-set bonus from the trinkets, it's like you have a few tier 3 versatility corruption amps on, right? So that's really nice. Now, it's a little bit different going over secondary stats in Shadowlands because there is a soft cap on your secondary stats. So what that means is, I think in BFA it took 23 mastery points to net you a percentage overall in your mastery. So if I equipped a piece of gear, it had 23 mastery on it, that would give me 1% in my mastery category right here. However, now in Shadowlands, how it works is once you get to a specific percentage on your secondary stat, you no longer, and let's say we're talking about my mastery, instead of the 23 that I would need in order to gain an additional percent, now that 23 is going to be higher, and it's going to continuously get higher depending on what your mastery stat is. So that's why it's going to be a little bit better to space out your stats. So I still think you should go burst and focus on mastery primarily, especially because it's really bursty, so this is going to get a lot of value on your heals. But the next thing that you should get is going to be crit. Now, crit didn't used to be that great in PvP for Resto Shaman because they nerfed the effectiveness of crits in arena and other things, but they reverted that change, so now crit is actually going to be really strong again. So that's why I recommend going probably a 60% mastery, like 40% crit, and I mean just like divvying up your stats that way. Because yeah, crit is super good, and crit has always been strong for Resto Shaman like PvE because again, the crit was not nerfed in PvE as well. Resurgence, if you crit with a spell, it returns mana, so this could help you from ooming. And all the little percentages is going to help quite a bit. So that's what I think you should do. Now, some of you are going to be asking me about haste. Haste has never been good for Resto Shaman. It's just bad, honestly. We have no spells that really benefit from haste, so like no haste breakpoints. Like with Resto Druids, you have a bunch of hots up on someone, you hit that certain haste breakpoint, and all those hots get an additional tick, which ends up being a lot of overall healing. And Riptide, the hot itself, isn't that good to actually take advantage of the haste, so that's why you should go Verse. Try to get 60% of your gear with Mastery, and then try to get the remainder 40% crit. So there you have it, everyone. This was my Resto Shaman PvP guide, just going over the Covenants, Legendaries, Soulbinds, stats, etc. So you guys will be ready to go for the Shadowlands PvP season that is going to start on Tuesday if you are in the NA region. So with that being said, if you like this video, please comment on it, like, subscribe to my channel, because everything does help out. If you have a question, comment. Again, follow me over at twitch.tv/Iissham and when I'm streaming, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I talk to everyone in my stream. It doesn't even have to be about Shaman. If it's just general arena advice, just feel free to ask, and I'll always be happy to respond. So follow me there, and thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you in the next video.